Let's take a look at some bigger storylines, though. There's a lot more beyond Thursday Night Football for Week 3, and there are some items we here at Dimers are keeping an eye on using our player projections model. We can almost get a sense on if some things that have started through the first couple weeks of the season are likely to continue or are likely to sway back in another direction. I'll take the first one here. We've got 3 of these that will talk you through. For our first one, we're keeping an eye on the wide receiver split for the Chargers. Now, Ladd McConkey was the big name coming in. If you participated in a fantasy draft, you probably got him very early in it if he's on your roster. Well, Quentin Johnston, a guy you may have gotten on the waiver wire after week 1, after he exploded with that big play, finding the end zone, it continued in week 2. If you look at what these two have done through the early season, Johnston has actually outperformed McConkey by a pretty reasonable amount, 150 yards to 120 yards. Now, McConkey is the receptions guy if you're in a PPR league, 11 receptions to 8. But Johnston's been finding the end zone 3 times this year through 2 weeks to Ladd McConkey's 0. On the surface, I think Dave and I, and probably anyone looking at this, would tell you it feels somewhat unsustainable for Johnston. And the Ladd McConkey, who really is the wide receiver 1 on this team, Justin Herbert's favorite target, should see some positive regression soon. But, we've also been paying attention to what our player projections model says. And there is a little bit of a middle ground here as we look ahead to week 3. In week 2, Ladd McConkey was projected to score 17.1 points in a PPR league. And I call him Q, Quentin Johnston was at 10.6. Now, we're seeing a slight uptick for Q, and we're seeing Ladd McConkey's projection for the first time this year take a little bit of a dip. For week 3, we project 14.5 points for Ladd and 10.8 points for Quentin Johnston, which is the highest that our model has projected any given week. So I guess what is the conclusion here? We are seeing it become more of an even split. We still project Ladd as the better play here. Ladd has a 36.4% chance to score a touchdown according to our projections. Quentin is back at 28.2. You would expect variance, right? I mean, it's not going to be Johnston that finds the end zone every single time the Chargers score through the air this year. At some point, McConkey's got to be that guy. But it's at least noteworthy now that our model is starting to take Johnston more seriously. We called him out as a good waiver wire add early in the season.
Sure did.
If you did add him then, it might be time to start thinking about putting him into your lineups as well.
Yep. Yeah, I might have been hesitant to plug him in after scooping him up and starting him in week 2, but now I wouldn't really think twice about it. I'm not putting him in wide receiver 2, 3 healthy range, but absolutely as a flex. Yeah, I mean, realistically, not sustainable. You're not scoring 60-yard burners every game. You're going to get tackled at some point. The deep balls aren't always going to land in your hands. The man has had rocks for hands for the last 2 seasons. So if he's gotten that out of the way,
is that what happened last season? Did he just get new hands?
It could be it, and if it is, then the drops may be behind him and it's not a concern anymore. But 2 games of QJ. I'm going to call him QJ. You go Q, I'll call him QJ.
Go Q.
2 games of QJ going off like that. Good for long term, but I in the short term, don't give up on Ladd yet. He's still our model's prioritized wide receiver in the projections. So this week too, they got their toughest test probably so far with the Broncos. Shut down the Titans. They were pretty vulnerable to the Colts, who definitely more resemble the Chargers as a team. But certainly interesting. Definitely one to keep your eyes on. If Ladd has a big game, maybe even consider trying to sell high and get out of the split if you can get the right return in fantasy. But for now, it's looking like it's getting a little more even, and hopefully there are brighter days for Ladd ahead.
Yep.
So I'll go with the next one here. Pretty major storyline, not just this week, but in general for the entire NFL season is, the Bengals are now going to be without Joe Burrow for about 3 months. It looks like. Realistically, they're probably cooked. Jake Brown, they're 2-0, which is about as good of a buffer as you can want. if you're going to take such a significant hit. Jake Browning looked okay in relief. We talked about that on Tuesday a bit, but did throw 3 picks while throwing 3 touchdowns. So I don't know what you're going to get. Maybe split that difference a bit. But notoriously not good for the Bengals wide receivers and offense as a whole when Joe Burrow is out, which shouldn't be, a surprise or anything. But Ja'Marr Chase averages about half as many PPR points in games without Joe Burrow compared to games with. I'm not taking him out of, lineups or anything, but you got to remove wide receiver 1 overall ceiling from your expectations here. Scoring a touchdown may be harder for him. He did get in last week with Browning in relief, but if I'm seeing odds like minus 140 and stuff for Ja'Marr Chase, I'm probably not touching it. I doubt he's going to be having anything close to a fair price from our model, a fair probability rather from our model at a price like that with Browning under center. What's kind of cool in this is maybe the run game takes over with Jake Browning here. Chase Brown, as of last night, had a little 2+ touchdown value prop on Dimers. You got to check to see if it's still around. If those odds have changed, you might not get the same value. But the model expects the RB to feature prominently, maybe minimizing the turnovers for Brown. I'll take a quick look here while we're chatting. Let me see what our projections for Brown as a whole are in this game, which will also feature Carson Wentz. It's a double backup game. So, I don't know what you're going to get in this. Brown's 52.6% to score a touchdown. So still very, very positive there. 74 projected rushing yards. But, the receiving drops off pretty heavily after Ja'Marr Chase, who has a 74-yard projection, which I think is maybe a little generous against a Vikings defense that's no slouch. So yeah, game with 2 backups could get ugly. I was considering, I put this in the notes. I'll definitely play this. I got some bonus bets on FanDuel, so watch me go. Chase Brown, Jordan Mason, 2+ touchdowns each. We have 18% probability for Chase Brown, 16% for Jordan Mason. So not nothing. Jordan Mason's in this without Aaron Jones. So hey, why not? Give me a little.
He said, "Watch me go."
Bonus bet. Watch
Clear
me
out.
go.
Let me rock. Get in the ball. Let our superstar cook. That's what we're gonna do. No, what a bummer, because this should be like a fun Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson game, and instead it's just like, okay, how ugly is this gonna get? But I think the 2 touchdown lotto with Brown and Mason is probably the most fun way to approach this. At least I won't be surprised if both teams lean into it. Just personal conjecture to add here. I'm gonna keep an eye on this because I feel like we saw this with the Vikings before. They might not be that bad with Carson Wentz. They just might not be. He won a lot of games previously as a starting quarterback, and we know this is both a coach and a franchise that can win with kind of the forgotten veteran guy. They did it all last year with Darnold. So we've also seen the Bengals lose Joe Burrow and fall completely off a cliff. I kind of personally wonder if the Vikings might roll here, but you would think both of these teams are definitely going to lean on the backs just to try to get their new quarterback a little comfortable to start the game. So I'm in on the Brown Mason play, and we'll be keeping an eye to see if my Vikings theory is true or not. The last storyline that I'm keeping an eye on this week is in the Giants backfield. If you're a college football fan like me, you love this name, Cam Skattebo. He is just such a fun player to watch. He did everything for Arizona State in college in their run to the college football playoff. And one of those guys that I think, as a college fan, you adore him, you root for him in the NFL, but you don't actually think it's going to work out in the NFL. Well, 2 weeks into his career, it looks like it might work out in the NFL. He had 2 carries in week 1, all the way up to 11 carries in week 2 in a competitive game. It was not garbage time touches for Skattebo. So he found the end zone. He had a big run down to the goal line, and the Giants kept him in for the goal line touch as well. I felt like that was almost a moment of reassurance that, hey, we want to get this guy the touchdown he deserves. And, he's competing with Tyrone Tracy, who, respectfully, he's Tyrone Tracy. He didn't look good in week 1 because he's Tyrone Tracy, and we've seen him get opportunities throughout his career. He's a fine backup, but he's not going to hold off this position because he's a quality running back. So if Skattebo can just perform how he did in week 2 on a yards per carry basis, maybe break a couple big runs and find the end zone again, I think he has a chance to sort of emerge as the bell cow here. And I think the model is starting to show value here as well, because we project him 36.7% likelihood to score a touchdown in this game. That is higher than we project for Tyrone Tracy at 28.1%. Now, both those guys do get an edge, so it's not a bad look to potentially try and play either. But the yardage projections also favor Skattebo. 44 is our projected rushing yards for Skattebo this week to Tracy's 36. So I will be betting Skattebo in a variety of ways. He's such a fun player to watch this week. And I think I'm pretty pumped that our model shows that he might have the edge in the Giants backfield.
Yeah, you don't usually see the model like quickly course correct, I guess maybe would say, on a transitional change with like workload and a player's role in their offense. But this one seemed pretty clear. Yeah, I mean, Tracy took 5 carries for 15 yards in week 2, which was actually a better per carry average than week 1, but they were just garbage runs. And I can't ignore the timing of which Skattebo got the looks. It was when it was winning time in the game, when they needed to win, when they needed to put the ball in the end zone, kill the clock, and put the Cowboys out of this game. It was Skattebo, and he came up clutch. Got an edge this week. Check out the model. There's I will say, at least one touchdown edge on Cam Skattebo in this game. I will leave it at that as a little teaser. Go check out the projections on dimers.com. You might like what you see, especially if you're a Chiefs hater.
You gotta love it. That's such a great tease. All right. Yeah, you should check out diners.com for everything here. We have over 30 touchdown props this week, a dozen multi-touchdown props, a handful of first touchdown edges to go along with it, 15 plus best bets this week. More than half of those are what we consider high value, which means it qualifies beyond our 4% edge threshold. Anytime you see anything above 4% on the site, it's almost a must add to my card for the weekend at this point. So go check it out, dimers.com. Of course, make sure you join Dimers Pro so you can get your hands on all of our projections, best bets, and more for NFL season.